Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Ryan, and today I'm joined by
Nerdarchy Steve.
Nathan Nerdarchy.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Frosty, the ice monster, was a vile, horrid soul, with a wicked heart that only grows, and two claws rending and cold. Frosty, the ice monster, is myth, or so they say.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get gaming tips as well as learn how to game with us.
So we've been workshopping some names for this new ice monster, cold elemental.
Could be a Frost Day, it could be, what is it, a Grim Frost.
Fellfrost.
Fellfrost.
Kind of like Fellfrost Soldier or something along those lines.
Shadow Frost, different things, yeah.
I like Fellfrost.
Fellfrost. There's the Frostfell, which is that's both in I think EverQuest and Forgotten Realms, I think. So we can't necessarily do that one because two fantasy franchises have used it. So,
bam.
but Fellfrost, I think, right?
I kind of like the idea of adding the word soldier to the end because they kind of are like that's what they kind of strike me as.
All right, so why don't we, share what it is that we're creating here?
Oh, we're making a ice elemental basically for the Patreons, and just kind of want to hash it out, get the finals.
Right. It's like this sort of ice elemental meets negative planar energy is where we're going with it.
Yeah, it's like Frost and Shadow.
So
Made of Frost and
what I
Shadow.
saw, I was looking over at Nate's creation here, and he's basically taken a water elemental and then frozen it with negative energy, which I
kind of like the kind of like you have the positive heat, and then radiance, and then you've got the frost and necrotic and like entropy, like frozen.
yeah, so it just totally drives out all the heat, freezing it and all the goodness at the same time, making them very crotchety and bad-tempered monsters. So I'm kind of like envisioning these guys. To me, they almost look like, oh man, what was the fighting game with the ice guy? There was a fire guy and an ice guy, and
The Heat Miser and the Cold Miser.
no, that's not a fighting game. Son of a.
Although I would love if somebody took the old like stop motion Rankin Bass things and like made a fighting game out of that. I would play the shit out of it. That'd be hilarious.
I want to be a dentist.
Yeah.
But, so I think the character's actual name was like Glacier or something like that. And
Was that
Killer Instinct?
Killer Instinct maybe? Yeah.
I feel like it was, and he had like a
Because there was the fire
smooth
guy.
face, right?
There's Pyro
Yes, it was
and
Killer
Glacier,
Instinct, yeah.
I think.
Yes.
Pyro and Glacier.
And so I always feel like they kind of look like that, but a little bit more rough and spiky. This is what we're going for.
I almost see them more as I want them to be more the Spine Devil, except for like a cold, sort of dark, transparent version of that is the kind of what I wanted them to look like.
Yeah, we were thinking that it was going to be.
Say something completely opposite.
We were thinking that it was going to be have those like frozen spines on it that it could use as weapons,
like icicles pointing off in all different directions.
Yeah, like jagged icicles. I was thinking like you could like sit still and just kind of look like just icicles hanging off the bluff or
One messed up porcupine, huh?
This is a porcupine that's been left in the freezer far too long.
Yeah, so we were thinking that maybe it's got like the false appearance ability that if it's in Arctic terrain, it can just look like an outcropping of sort of like spiky ice growths that happen to be there.
And then the other thing is attacking it is at your own detriment, pretty much, right? So like you have to deal with the intense cold as well as the ice spines that are coming off of it.
So now, does this do cold and necrotic damage when it attacks you, or does it just do one or the other?
It just does cold and piercing, I believe, would be the damage types. Necrotic is just part of the process that went into making it, and is giving it kind of a bad attitude.
Because I assure you, this is one ill-tempered bit of icicles.
I'd like to see there to be something a little bit more than flavor with the necrotic.
Well, I mean, it could be a D6 of cold and a D6 of necrotic.
Well, I'm thinking like maybe if it actually drops something, and maybe it can actually spawn something
like zombies or something.
Yeah.
I know.
Like this way you could. Like,
it's got resistance and immunities.
It's got resistance and immunities with that.
Yeah, so it's immune to necrotic damage, but it doesn't actually emanate it because it's fueled by it. It's not it's not projecting it. It would have to like give away its part of its like the necrotic has become part of its life essence and is what was used to actually corrupt it and freeze its heart.
Oh, well, then what if it's immune to necrotic damage, and so much that necrotic damage heals it?
Well, that's always a possibility.
That's a distinct possibility.
I was thinking about involving something like that where if maybe it could sit and instead of doing anything it would just regenerate, or if it had like a a fast heal kind of thing. Every round it just regenerated as long as it wasn't like the heart of it wasn't destroyed. Eventually, I mean, I just wanted to stack all kinds of abilities on this terrible thing. That's one of the problems that I've
But like we're also going for like a lower CR range, like a CR3, I imagine. So we have to like rein it in, and you can't get too much into just like
So we're
more power.
we're actually making this weaker than regular elementals.
They're minions. Yeah, they're minions.
Yeah, they're minions.
They're better than Mephits, but they're not elementals.
We'll need to make a
mediums.
granddaddy later.
Well, yeah, we can make a greater.
That's always possible. What if what happens is one water elemental actually makes 2 or 3 of them or 4 of them? That's the other thing. That's why they're weaker, because they're actually like distilling the essence of the water elemental down to multiple beings.
Yeah. Well, and you could have the whatever we call this, say, Felfrost Hulk or something like that, or Felfrost Juggernaut, where it's just like the bigger, nasty version.
Yeah. These are the babies.
Yeah.
So like 4 of them combined together.
And then one forms the head.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that. Like, I don't know if you guys don't seem to like the soldier idea, but I like the Felfrost soldier.
Well, we could do
and then
Felfrost
upgrade
soldier
to a
and-
Hulk.
Can
or
we just call them
Juggernaut.
the Winter Soldier? How about that?
I think there's something already with that name somewhere.
Nonsense.
No one's heard of it though, so it's okay.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows about Winter Soldiers.
So the question is, who's making these things and why?
Oh, well, the background for it, I was thinking there's going to be
The
like
Cold Miser.
yes. Well, there's, what was definitely inspired. Ryan said something about Heat Miser and Cold Miser. I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. So there's actually this thing. One of the character that you can get, the friend or foe, is like a distilled essence of cold and negative energy. An ancient magus separated out to like the kind of like a primal force into these separate bits, and the cold and the negative kind of congealed over in one section of this kind of alchemical experiment, and then the hot and radiance was on another one. So it's kind of like the.
So this could kind of link. So I had I actually left a teaser in the Cringe Who Stole Father Winter's Day adventure to lead into, because I thought basically like it's essentially a way to play a D&D version of the Cringe Who Stole Christmas, and I thought I would eventually maybe do something with the Heat Miser and the Cold Miser, and I definitely left a hint at the end of the adventure that would hook into the next thing. So this, like, we could do a thing where that does happen. So if you wanted to check out the Cringe Who Stole Father's Winter's Day, we can put that in the description below as well. But because I definitely put something that I think I put like initials on a crate that said like Cold Miser, like CM or something like that. That like,
that would work out really well.
Yeah.
And that could be what they like the nickname. Well, you know how you have your like true name, and then you have what everybody else calls you.
Yeah.
It's either a nickname or just what the unknowing peasants nickname.
So I almost feel like the description you just used of the one guy being distilled in cold and necrotic energy. Now I almost feel like the other guy should be distilled into fire and radiant energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that could
to
be
make it two opposing forces.
diametrically opposed.
warming in January could happen.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Frostfell or Felfrost Soldier. Is this something that's a small monster, a medium monster?
Medium. It's bigger than a Mephit, smaller than an elemental.
But really, the great thing about this elemental is you can have it hug your keg, and it keeps your ale nice and cold.
Now that's a beer cozy for
Yeah,
you.
it is.
Unless it hugs it into a spike and then it just starts leaking and freezing.
Well, it might skunk it a little bit, but it'll be cool.
Now, new encounter idea for the Booze Ooze with the Felfrost creature.
Ooze cubes.
Yeah, there you go.
Version of a Dungeons and Dragons monster, which can only be found on our Patreon. We have to think of ways for you guys to use it in your game. One, you already had this this boss set up, and the friend or foe that is creating these guys and using them. Mm-hmm. But I also see this as like something can be created other ways, like by accident,
right.
or maybe there's a ritual that gets out. So other necromancers or use it, or this is definitely something I could see like a frost giant. Use it.
If you summon an elemental and you're in like the Feywild or something, like a dark place in the Feywild, that would be something. Maybe it's like twisted when you summon it there, or
So gone awry.
something gone awry, or like a special place where necrotic energy. Like if people are getting raised as zombies and you're summoning an elemental, you might have an issue going on with getting a frost day or Felfrost soldier or something.
Be very careful, folks, where you summon your water elementals.
Yeah.
So other ways of using it, you keep wanting to use the word soldier, perhaps, maybe not this guy, but somebody else has learned the ritual to to create them, and they're using them in a tundra or cold environment, that they're a source that has the ability to move and stay hidden, because they can just look like icicle outcroppings, and they can be on someone before they actually know it. Like, they're apparently good at ambush monsters if they've got the ability to be indecipherable. So there's lots of different ways you could use it that way.
Once upon a time, we discussed in a video about doing a uber powerful frost giant patron that grants warlock powers.
Right.
Possibly riding a mammoth.
Possibly riding a mammoth. I think it also tied into the hobgoblins in our world, where we were talking about having these tundra hobgoblins that would actually use
Sleds, if I remember correctly.
They were like ships. They were like they were like sleds, but with sails attached to them.
Yeah,
and they would sail them across the ice and through the snow.
Snow skiffs.
Yes. So I could definitely see these guys being involved over there. Maybe these warlocks are raising them up, for an invasion.
Yeah, I would say anytime you're going to use like the Winter Witch archetype, or some kind of scenario where
Narnia.
the Narnia style, somebody's coming in and
They're appropriate lackeys.
Yeah, they're appropriate lackeys for somebody like that. I mean, you could even change it up where people think things are frozen inside it rather than just.
And if you just wanted a less white and more ice walker, you can mix them in there as well. Or you just felt like your white walkers needed spikes. This might be a way to go as well.
Yeah, they could be the more like CG kind of, because of their spell casting ability. They've got the ability to not just be trying to butt up against a wall or something and break it down, but they can freeze. Another quality to this was part of their nature is they have spell casting, and what I had was a reflavoring of the spells in which they have an ability that any spell they cast does cold damage rather than
the original
damage of the spell type. So they've got spells like Burning Hands and Flaming Sphere, and I was thinking about giving them Heat Metal, so it'd be like Chill Metal.
Yeah.
So do the exact same kind of properties to it, because when you get really, they call it a frost burn for a reason, because it feels like it does the same kind of thing to it. It's just with removing all the cold from an organic object instead of adding too much hot to it. I mean, removing all the heat rather than adding too much.
That was another potential name I had thought of as a
frostburn,
a frostbite. Oh yeah, Bleak Frost. I think Bleak Frost was another.
That's a good one too.
I'm sure we'll get a bunch of great suggestions in the comments below.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember them because I dashed off like 4 or 5 like different ideas. So
they can be used as, if you have a bunch of Mephits, they can be used kind of as the
could be the
captain,
boss.
The little boss of the Mephits, or maybe the Mephits serve it, and it's just a twisted elemental that's still living on whatever plane they're at. I always like the ideas of what if the elemental never gets to leave, like something's wrong and it's stuck here, rather than just being dismissed after the magic's done.
I was thinking maybe that's part of it, like because they're corrupted, they're not the elemental they were before. They don't belong to that plane anymore.
A lot of things have happened.
So because technically, they technically have become a para-elemental at this point. So, would they go back to the water elemental plane? Maybe not. Maybe that strips them their ability to go back, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they're so pissed off. Like you've kind of created this banishment from where they're from.
Yeah, the corrupted spirits.
Yeah. What if there's a way that they have a way of reproducing, and they get more that way? The initial creation could have been summoning of water elementals that are then infused with necrotic energy, so much so until they split into multiple pieces, fragments, and each one of those fragments becomes a Frostfell soldier. But then perhaps over time they develop a way to reproduce themselves. Maybe they're kind of like asexual and they just kind of split off and respawn.
Yeah, if they water's constantly freezing to them and.
Well, no. What if how it happens is they absorb necrotic energy? Like, maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be a ribbon ability. It doesn't have to be an actual mechanic thing where they absorb the energy. But by being around it, and it could also create like part of their ecology. Like maybe they seek out graveyards or places where the dead would go, because just by kind of being there and hanging out in those areas, they suck in that extra necrotic energy to the point where they either swell to the point where they become a
Juggernaut,
a Frostfell juggernaut, or they split.
Yeah.
And maybe even scholars don't know what causes one and not the other.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery.
Well, I mean, you don't always have to explain like all the little ins and outs of what's going on in this Dungeon Master. You just have to tell a cool story.
Yes.
So people are like, I don't know how that happened or why.
But I think
a possibility
I think it's
too.
fun and interesting to have a method for them to change, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's make more or become bigger and better for you, so you can have bigger and better monsters added to your D&D game. Let us know what you think in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can check out articles over at nerdarchy.com.
you can hang out with us over on Facebook.
You can also follow us over on Twitter.
So until next time,
Stay
nerdy.